Good morning, everyone. Am I audible to all of you? We'll start with the lecture. We were discussing about good morning, Sivangi. We were discussing about the relationship of India and USA. And we had discussed some of the things which are important for this relationship. We talked about some of the defense relations. We talked about energy cooperation. Yeah, good morning everyone. Ankit, Piyush, Ravi, Pratyush. I hope everybody is fine and healthy. So we'll be continuing from the where we had left. I am doing great. I am, yeah, Pratyush, okay. I'll take care of it. Probably the class is at 2 today. Okay. Good morning, Devbrat, Hemant, everyone. And I am also doing good. I'm healthy. And here we are going to discuss the economic aspect of this relationship. Yeah, we had done energy, Ankit, yesterday. So we'll be talking about the economic aspect of this relationship today. And we are almost done with most of the things that are important at this point in time. Good morning, Dhananjay. So we'll be now looking at the economic relationship of these two countries. And of course, US is a big market for India. We export biggest export destination. And we also receive a lot of investment from US. US has and both these countries are willing, good morning, Suman. Both these countries are willing to extend this relationship. But recently, Trump had started with the policy of US first, America first policy, and Buy American, Hire American slogan made things a bit difficult for India. The issue of America first and Buy American Hire American. Buy American and Hire American slogan has led to some unease in India. Okay, so such things are a bit problematic for this relationship. And of course, in 2019, USA ended some of the benefits that it was giving to India under the generalized system of preferences. In 2019, USA ended GSP. This is generalized system of preferences. For India. And because of this policy, India was having benefits to the worth of more than $5.5 billion. India was benefiting to the tune of US dollars 5.5 billions before this. So there were some preferential treatment given to the Indians. Yeah, very good morning, Mani. So of course the things didn't remain same after that. Though these two countries had committed to increase their bilateral trade by $500 billion by 2030, but the things do not look same at this point in time. Very good morning, Asu. Please settle fast and start with the things that we are discussing. Okay. So these two countries both want to increase the trade to by 2030. So it is very much expected in near future that we'll be having more of trade. Okay, so we'll be having more of trade between these two countries. So we'll be looking at this thing. Okay. Now, we also have an issue of H-1B visas. There was a time when India was benefiting a lot from this thing. The criteria was such that most of the visas that were given by the American system was coming to Indians. But recently, this has not been the same. And if you are not aware about these H-1B visas, these are basically meant for short-term assignments. Okay, and using this thing, the H-1B visas, India was benefiting. And there was a provision previously where the spouses of the people who are working there were also eligible to work. But during Trump administration, some of the changes were made and it wasn't allowed. So India was not happy about this thing as well. But all these things keep on changing from time to time. So it is more important that issues like this, you keep on following the issues, because you never know that within 6 months only some other policy will come and these things will change again. Okay? So it is important that you focus on such news. Okay? So basically what you need to do, follow this news. Okay? Because it is very, very likely, that things will change in near future as well. Asu, I would like you to note it down afterwards, but I'll show you what the first points were. But still, we talked about that USA is one of the biggest export destination, and India is having a lot of investment from USA. And issue of America first and buy American, hire American slogan has led to some unease in India. And of course, make in India is making things difficult for rest of the countries. In the similar fashion, of course, each and every country is going to do something like that. But as you have read in economics, WTO agreements, most favored nation concept. So of course, you know that the trade has to be fair. And though some of the countries are giving privilege to their own people, they don't want others to do that thing. Okay? And in this economic aspect also, US has some reservations about the RBI policy of utilizing its own digital payment system. Initially, the MasterCard system of USA was being utilized by India. And in digital payment system, the American companies were having some kind of dominance. But with RBI's policy of promoting its own digital payment system, the US is not happy. So, USA is not happy about promotion of RBI's digital payment system, as previously American companies were benefiting. USA also blames India for giving subsidies. Yeah, Protyus, this H-1B visa system is for a short period of time when professionals, mostly related to technical services, go there, work for some time, and come back. There was a lottery system. Still, it is a lottery system. So the biggest beneficiaries were Indians. And of course, the other problem area between two countries, which most of the Western countries are having with India, the problem of intellectual property rights, the issue of IPR. The issue of intellectual property rights. Most of the Western countries are not happy about this thing. Because what India does, some of the times under the compulsory licensing policy, like the emergency of COVID, India usually allows the development of generic drugs. And if you look at most of the research that has been done in the past was done by some Western company only, American company or European company. So this compulsory licensing done by India for drugs is a cause of concern, because under this policy, if there is some emergency and a vast population is being impacted by such disease, then India allows its public sector undertakings to manufacture those drugs for the people. And it has been a problem area. Okay? So, in this segment, India's compulsory licensing for pharmaceutical drugs is a cause of concern. Okay? Because they make a lot of money using these pharmaceutical products. So USA has put India into its priority watch list. Okay, this is a list which they prepare for the countries who are not abiding by their IPR laws. Okay, so there is a special report 301, a special 301 report prepared by US Department of Commerce. So whenever there is any meet in any of the public forums, USA always raises the issue of IPR. Because the pharma companies are lobbying against this thing, the compulsory licensing. The compulsory licensing does not recognize the patent, and India can produce the drugs in case of an emergency. Okay, so you need to know this term. So these are some of the concerns. Okay, but of course both these countries are cooperating, and during this pandemic as well, it is still in news now. India and some of the developing countries, in fact some of the developed countries have also backed removal of IPR for the drugs which are taking care of the COVID-19 situation. Okay, and the other aspect which is important between these two countries is the recent crisis Of course, you know that India helped with the malaria drug. India was the country which was providing drugs to most part of the world. India provided hydroxyquinine to USA for treating COVID patients. Initially, there were reports that this drug is helping. But now, of course, after WHO said that this drug is no more valid, then we stopped providing it, but we had sent doses. Yeah, Adi, now everybody is talking about the TRIPS waiver. Everybody is talking about this thing, including USA, after the intense pressure from rest of the developing world when Biden was attacked. The role of diaspora, of course, we'll be talking about. Okay, and now USA is also helping India with oxygen concentrators and vaccine. So during the time of pandemic, of course, we have helped each other. USA is now reciprocating the help that India had offered. And of course, if we talk about Indian diaspora, the Indian diaspora that has pressurized Biden to offer help, because initially it seemed that they were reluctant to part with the medical drugs and equipments when there was initial call from the rest of the world. But of course, the Indian diaspora is playing a major role. And Indian diaspora is the second largest diaspora in US after Chinese. And they are politically very active. And shaping the relationship between the two countries. Not all the population, those who are in USA, are equally active as Indians are. Indians are very, very active politically, as the population is more. When it comes to some other countries, like some of the countries like Middle East, even Chinese diaspora is not as active as the Indians. Politics is in our blood, right? And some of the big investments are also there. So economically also India has good presence in USA, and it has made sure that China listens to what India have to say. Okay, some estimates suggest that more than 45 lakh Indians are there at any given point in time. Maybe for work, they are working there or having education there. And most of the multinationals, if you talk about, have huge Indian presence. If you go to Silicon Valley, you'll see that every street has lot of Indians. In fact, the NASA, if you talk about NASA, it is said that almost 40% of the scientists, those who are working with NASA, belong to India. And we had examples in Kalpana Chawla and other people who were also recognized by US as their nationals, who had contributed towards the making of that nation. We are also collaborating in a space when I'm talking about, when we talked about some of the scientific community, then we have to look at the relationship that these two countries have established in the sector of space. Diaspora, Purnima. Diaspora means the people, the population that is related to some country. The origin of those people is some other country. They can be active citizens, NRIs, or may have shifted there before independence as well. And they could have settled, but they are of Indian origin. So such people are called as diaspora, Indian diaspora. The Indian Regional Navigational Satellite System. Indian Regional Navigational Satellite System. Or it is also called by the name NAVIC, okay, was given a status of ally for GPS, the Global Positioning System of USA. You need to follow this relationship very, very minutely, because these are active relationships. Every now and then these two countries are collaborating. So there will be a lot of updates each year. So you may have to do away with some of the things which seem less important at that point in time. And you'll be focusing on more of some contemporary things that are happening. Okay? So there is a lot of things happening between these two countries. You must be aware that India has expertise in telescopes and collaborating with USA to develop some of these. Okay, so in Kolkata we definitely have a good system which takes care of the mirrors that are actually used in some of the systems in telescopes. So synthetic aperture radar satellite is also being developed in collaboration with the ISRO is collaborating with NASA. Both these countries, the premier agencies, the space agencies of both these countries are collaborating in development of synthetic aperture radar satellite. And like I said, it may become less important, this news. Some other news item will take center stage when you will be writing mains. If somebody is writing mains this year, these things are important. Okay, the first two points remain valid, but a news like this, which is not a very big innovation, okay, can be replaced by some more recent example. So these are the things that are important with respect to India and USA at this point in time. And of course, we have seen that regional South Asian security South Asian security concerns. Both these countries are on the same page. Both the countries are collaborating. We have Afghan issue. We have South China Sea dispute. We have terrorism to deal with. And of course, the growing influence of China has taken center stage. Deva, mains of course will take place maybe in late December or January, but it will be counted for 2021 only, right? The time of mains can be in January, most probably first week of January, or as soon as last week of December as well. This time you can have mains. So these are all the aspects that you need to focus on. And as China has become highly proactive in this region, and USA has a lot of stakes in this region. So there will be many news items that will be appearing in the newspaper that you'll need to follow for this relationship. Whatever developments are taking place, be watchful and note those things down. Okay, so note it down, and now we'll move to some other important relationship. Whatever we have discussed till now is based on the priority that India is giving. Our neighbors are more important, so we discussed all those neighbors first. Then two powers, India and Russia, both were important, so we discussed this thing. Now we'll look at an area which is a policy framework of the Prime Minister. Since he took charge in 2014, he was very, very keen to develop relationship with Southeast Asia. So from low-caste policy, we shifted to Act-East policy. So the other region of India's concern that India want to have some influence, good relations, is ASEAN. Saksham, you want me to discuss prelims strategy? Okay, definitely. I can give you a brief in 5 minutes now only, and then we'll start with India ASEAN, because if some of you have filled the paper this time and looking at the time that we have, of course, it is very pertinent that you can go for the exam this time as well. We have 5 months. I'll take 5 minutes to explain this thing, and then we'll move to the next topic. Okay? So for prelims, you have asked, and let me give you a brief about how you can clear the prelims. Okay? So the first thing is first, like I said, covering the syllabus is important. Syllabus is important. And in this, if I talk about the priority areas, then of course, environment, because UPSC has specifically mentioned environment. Usually, when this new syllabus was not given, environment was always considered as part of geography. But as some of the students are also going for forest services, this part has become really important. So you need to cover this. Environment is priority number 1. Then other subject which is really easy and can give you a lot of questions is polity. Then you have economics. So along with current affairs, if we talk about these segments, they in prelims they can fetch you 15 to 20. So at least 45 questions, at max maybe 55 or around 60 questions as well can be covered from these segments. But along with current affairs, this plus current affairs. These many questions are not simply. So this should be your top priority area. Looking at the previous, economics was not given relevance till 2017. What UPSC had started, it has started reducing the relevance of this thing. But now, this year also, we can expect some more questions from this area. And then after this top priority areas, you can move to rest of the subjects. As per your preferences, we have geography, history. But you have to understand that this history is ancient, medieval, and modern. So this is top priority, then ancient. Medieval is not a priority. The reason being the cost-benefit analysis with medieval is not good. At max, here in history we have more questions, but 8 to 10 questions are going to be from this area, 3 to 5 questions from this area, and 3 to 5 questions from this area. But this part is basically really tough because it was a period of turmoil. If you want to give time to medieval, then I want you to focus more on Mughal period and some of the important rulers of the Sultanate period. But it was a time when the rulers were changing so fast. Money, I want you to check. I think there is some problem with your this thing. And more recently, though, science and technology. Okay, this is important. This is priority number 1. This is priority number 2. This is priority 3. And here science and tech is priority number 4. It is more important. More recently, more focus. Okay. So it should be the sequence. If you are giving priority to your subjects, first environment, second polity, third economy, fourth science and tech, and then choose between geography and history. Geography, of course, can give you around 200 marks in mains. It dominates in first paper, dominates in third paper as well, 150 to 170 marks each year. You can easily fetch from geography in mains. But if we pure geography, if we talk about prelims point of view, at max they have asked 7 questions only. Okay, if we remove environment from that, including environment and geography together, of course this is dominant. So it should be the priority areas. Now second thing that I want you to focus is revision, practice, tests, give 30-40 at least. Okay, and giving test is not only important from the perspective of checking your scores. You have to make sure that Amit, there is no disadvantage with geography optional. Geography is the most scoring optional. The only problem is you need to develop interest and you have to have a good understanding. And my scores, if you ask, they were really good. I should not be self-aggrandizing about it. But the least I had scored is 282. सबसे कम जो मुझे आए थे वो भी 280 से ऊपर थे. So I had a good command and many of my students have qualified as well. अभी recently UP का result आया था. तो उसमें बहुत सारे मेरे स्टूडेंट हो गए. UPSC, of course, some of my students had done well and they are giving interviews. तो and Bihar अभी कुछ दिन में result आएगा BPSC. You'll see many of my students will make it. ठीक है? So it is easy. Geography is a good subject. Anybody who is having good understanding, answer लिखना आना चाहिए. जैसा किताबों में लिखा रहता है, that is not the best way to deal with geography. Writing bookish language will not fetch you. You have to have a good command over diagrams and thinkers that you can use in second paper. Scoring 150 to 160 in second paper in geography optional is always easy if you have command over first paper. So 300 is achievable in geography. ठीक है, अभी let us focus on this. Revision, give 30-40 tests and this test should have micro analysis. Why questions are going wrong? ठीक है, अगर आपने ये डिटेक्ट कर लिया, क्योंकि पढ़ तो लिया ही है आपने. Amit, I didn't lack as such any area. I was unfortunate. Some of the times, some GS paper backfired, sometimes essay backfired. So I gave all the interviews. Of course, I was better than half of the people who got even in. Okay, but unfortunately I couldn't make it, and it is part of preparation. Sometimes luck doesn't favor and it backfires. Okay, Devam, We'll talk about that. Let's focus on Aya, Divam. We can talk about this thing later. Let's not get into this thing. This is beneficial for everyone. Okay, this thing, geography is optional, is for few people only. You can later ask me. I had given my number as well, right? You can ask me later about it. So this thing, अगर आप ये कर रहे हो तो prelims पक्का निकलेगा. I can guarantee prelims is easy. Good reading, have command over all the things, current affairs. 4 जो सब्जेक्ट मैंने बोले प्रायोरिटी एरिया है उनको बहुत अच्छे से कीजिए and practice these many tests. Why questions are going wrong and you'll definitely clear. Money, I have given 4 attempts and I reached interview stage for UPSC thrice. And in state services, I gave 5 interviews. As many appeared, I appeared for the interview. And I had only one preference in state, so I am not working. But my marks were always enough to get a job. Okay? But I love teaching, and probably you are also getting the benefit of that when I'm explaining things to you, right? So let's focus here. ये clear हो गया है सबको? पूर्णिमा, for CSAT focus on reasoning. 20 क्वेश्चन आते हैं, काम हो जाएगा. क्वांट में क्या है कि फोकस ऑन जो मैथमेटिक्स वाले क्वेश्चन, सम ऑफ दैट. अमित, ओके, सम ऑफ यू हैव नॉट, एंड डू सेंड मी अ मैसेज बिफोर कॉलिंग मी, ओके, एंड आई जस्ट एक्सपेक्ट दिस थिंग. Whenever I'll be free, I'll talk, because maybe I'll be busy with some of the lectures and you'll call. So my number is 9958822737. This is my number. And if you want to see answers on Facebook also, you can search roasted geographer. There you can find some of the answers written by me. When I was free last COVID, I was stuck at home, so I had written some of the answers. So you can see those answers. That will help in GS as well. Equally valid for GS, so you can go for that. Okay, I think that we have given almost 7-10 minutes to this prelims discussion. So we'll move to our next thing, because it is important that we cover international relations first. Okay, so why I didn't get selected? I said some of the times the luck doesn't favor us, right? So it's not like nobody was there to guide me. I did everything on my own. So probably I didn't get selected. I made some of the mistakes as a student. So it's all right. We'll be looking at India-ASEAN relationship. Pratyus, you should target the things like I have discussed. You'll easily score more than 120. Revise, find the weak areas, work on them. Prelims is the easy. Okay, so India ASEAN now will be focusing on. Okay, and this is one of the focus areas of between these two countries. Though ASEAN was this group of 10 countries, there are 10 countries. It was formed in the year 1967. But at that point in time, India was not very keen, neither they were very much inclined to have much of relationship with India. It was only in 90s that both of these areas, India started looking east, and they were also wanting to collaborate with India. Okay, they also were willing to collaborate with India. So if we talk about how this relationship developed, okay, if we talk about the development phase, and if you want, you can write the name of the countries, the 10 countries that are, and like I had said, it is always better if you can draw rough diagrams. As I'll show you the areas in a rough diagram only. Okay, so always try to draw rough pictures. It should not look like exactly the place, but if you like, if you'll write that this is ASEAN, and always mention that sketch map, because the sketch maps are never to scale. So even if the diagram goes wrong, the one who is checking the paper will definitely understand that some of the mistakes were done in haste. Okay, so you'll still be able to score better than others who do not have a habit of using such representation. So always try to do this thing. As I said, it has to be rough sketch. Never ever try to draw exact things. It will not come to you naturally. It will require a lot of practice, and of course you'll not have that much time. You even know. Some of the students of geography can do this thing, they can invest time, but most of you will not have time to learn the art of drawing each and every country of the world. And it is not even required. Like I said, it ain't is even required. It has to be a rough sketch. Always go for some rough sketch which can represent the areas that is of your interest. So we want the rough areas only. Try to draw it those slowly. With practice, you'll be learning to do things quicker as well. Okay. So it is somewhat like this. It has to be like you are showing 10 countries, the 10 countries which are part of this. The diagrams will always help you. And you must also be aware that Laos is something that rest of the world's addresses. They call themselves as Lao DPR. The other name is Lao DPR. The Western countries have given this name as and this PDR stands for People's Democratic Republic. And this area is not only important with respect to India's relationship. The Indo-Pacific region is important. China has interest, US has interest. So ASEAN automatically becomes important from the world's point of view as well. Okay. The tiny country Brunei is also part of this. Okay. We have Singapore somewhat here. It is also part of this. Philippines, Vietnam, they are in conflict with China as well over this region. They all have claim over South China Sea. This is the region which is South China Sea. Okay. You must be aware that Cambodia is a country which has one of the largest temples, the Hindu temples. These some of the largest Hindu temples are not in India. They are in this region only. So of course we have cultural ties. Malaysia is a very good example where both the communities are living in peace and they both admire the cultures. Because British didn't reach these places, so the hatred between communities did not develop to an extent like it has happened because of our colonial past. Okay, so there is a still cooperation and love between the countries. So draw it fast. The diagram is not very important, but only because I want you guys to be in practice of doing this thing. This is very, very important that you try to draw some of these. I hope below Vietnam and Indonesia. Okay, this is Brunei. It is a small, teeny country. Okay, Brunei. Still, there is monarchy there. And you must, some of you must be aware about this country. This is a country where we say that BRUNEI. This is, there is no theft in this country. If somebody Adi, I'll be discussing the South China Sea conflict islands. We'll be discussing that separately under this only. Then we'll be drawing this diagram again. With respect to India, now just focus on this. Brunei, there is no theft, okay? Because they have brutal ways of dealing with that. If somebody even takes 1 rupee from someone else, his hands will be chopped off. Even if somebody throws crores of rupee on the street of Brunei, then nobody will touch that. Okay, so let's move ahead. How things developed between India and this region. Okay, like I said, initially we did not had any kind of relationship. In 1990s, the 1990s, the real engagement between India and ASEAN started. Of course, India had some relationship with some relationship with some of the countries like Vietnam, independently with Indonesia and Malaysia as well. And Myanmar, of course, was our neighbor, so we are having relationship. But here we are talking about the relationship which has developed between it as a group. The group is important. Okay? Saksham, you can mark a line and you can show the Malaysian island. Though it is written nearby Indonesia, but of course I was trying to indicate that only. So you can mark those corrections. I just missed the arrow. I cannot write all the names in a single place, right? So 1993 was a watershed year when some official engagement was declared and India became sectoral dialogue partner of ASEAN. It means that sectoral dialogue partner means in some of the sectors, these two countries will have dialogue to cooperate. Not all the sectors were open to dialogue. Okay? They figured out some of the sectors that they can engage into. Then in the year 1996, India became full dialogue partner. These two, they had agreed to talk about each and every aspect of concern. Okay? So this was an important year, 1996. And in 2002, this was further, the engagement was upgraded and summit level partnership was established between these two, India and ASEAN. Summit level means whenever they are having some joint summits with even other countries, they'll try to be on same page. Okay? They'll be focusing on some of the issues that are common to these two. Okay? So summit level partnership. In 2004, it was further upgraded. It was a move towards a strategic partnership. They talked about partnership of peace, progress, and shared prosperity. So basically all these are engagements which ASEAN has included. If we call about ASEAN, then those are 10 countries. The membership was given to India in 1996. But the world does not recognize it as such. ASEAN, the advantage is, of course, business Saksham. We get an opportunity of new market. We get to get few things which are popular there and can be utilized in India. We can get resources. We'll be looking at the aspects. Don't be worried. We are moving towards that only. So this was an important step in 2004 which finally led to free trade agreement. 2010, FTA was signed. And of course, with most of the countries, we want this economic relationship. To establish this economic relationship, we engage at multiple levels so that we can generate some kind of confidence between the countries. The real interest is, of course, such things. So India-ASEAN Free Trade Agreement in goods. Initially, the goods were only allowed. So these two countries discussed trading freely in goods. Another important year was 2012, when these two countries decided to upgrade the relationship to a strategic partnership. And a strategic partnership means that now all the things were open to discussion and collaboration. Okay? Everything can be discussed on the platforms where they are meeting, and it will range from each and everything. Okay? And this strategic partnership ensured for the first time that when our present Prime Minister Modi ji came to power, Act East policy of India, plus an ambassador was appointed. Usually we see that ambassadors are appointed for a country, but when a grouping becomes very important, then the countries appoint ambassadors to deal with those groupings as well. So ASEAN became very important for India. With this Act East policy, India appointed its first ambassador to ASEAN in 2014 only. So this is an important year. India appointed an ambassador for ASEAN. So this was a big thing. This grouping was becoming very important. And with this approach, so in many aspects, till 2014, we were not able to convince ASEAN to have free trade agreement in services. But with this thing, it paved the way for free trade agreement in services. So it was an important achievement. And India and ASEAN also signed investment agreement the very same year. This is ASEAN-India investment agreement was also signed in the very same year. So now this relationship was fully grown. And in 2018, of course, we celebrated 25 years of this relationship. And these countries were invited to chair the Republic Day parade. So this is the story of our relationship. And this relationship did not only develop because India was engaged in track 1 diplomacy. The diplomacy that has been part of this relationship is called as track 1.5 diplomacy. Okay? So India and ASEAN are engaged in track 1.5 diplomacy or dialogues. So I'll explain what exactly it is. So what are these diplomacies? Okay, so make a note. Track 1 diplomacy. So basically, this track 1 diplomacy is government to government engagements. Where only formal channels are used and the designated officials, the ambassadors by the government, only engage in improving the relationships. Okay? Track 1.5 is a bit different. Track 1.5 diplomacy. Here, the government plus private persons. These can be ex-bureaucrats. These can be NGOs. These can be civil societies. This can be your media as well. Okay? So they all are engaged in shaping the relationship. Okay? And actively engaged, right? Actively engaged. Where the state is even aware, state wants them to engage. State supports some of these private persons to engage in developing a relationship. And the other term which you'll often see in news is track 2 diplomacy. In this type of relationship, the private persons, of course, this ex-bureaucrats like we had written, ex-bureaucrats, NGOs, media, etc. are engaged. Government may or may not actively engage. Okay, so there was a time when we had snapped all relationship with Pakistan. So at that point in time, these track 2 diplomacy worked. So these are different types of engagements. There are many more, right? So when only the religious leaders of few countries are involved, then we call it as track 7 diplomacy. But these rest of them are not very popular. You need to focus on these aspects only. These three are very, very popular, and you'll see often see them in news. Okay. So track 1 is government to government. Track 1.5 is when government is aware and allowing active engagement of some of the civil societies, NGOs, some bodies, business houses and all. So this is track 1.5, and track 2 diplomacy, only private persons, and it is like government may or may not actively engage in such thing. There can be a situation where government doesn't want any of those contacts. Okay. So this is how this relationship has shaped between these two. Now we'll look at some of the aspects that are important. Note down this thing, and you have to use such words. You have to identify whenever you are reading the newspaper. Some of times such terms will appear. While writing your answers, you have to use such terms. When we talk about ASEAN, always use this. Okay, track 1.5 diplomacy. With most of the countries with whom we are not actively engaged, there is only track 1 diplomacy. Rest form of diplomacies are with countries where we tend to get more engaged. So I hope everybody has noted this thing. So let's see the cultural aspect of this relationship. So of course, like I had suggested, some of the biggest temples are in Asian countries. In this region only, Angkor Wat is one of the most popular regions in Cambodia. Okay. In fact, if we talk about the coronation of Thailand, coronation of the kings in Thailand, they are exactly same like Indian rituals. The system was exactly same. Though in India we have few kings who are not recognized, but of course you know Thailand, the king has still a lot of influence. If we talk about the traditional medicine system, in Asian region is very similar to Ayurveda. Yeah, Saksham. Okay. So write it down, note it down. And of course, we know that epics of Ramayana and Mahabharata. Ramayana and Mahabharata are very, very popular in ASEAN, equally popular in ASEAN. So it is important from this perspective as well. And we have people to people network as well, student exchange programs, scholarship in Nalanda University. They are also Buddhist culture. So this is a very strong relationship that has developed between these two regions on account of some of the cultural similarities that exist in these two regions. Okay. Now the next aspect that we can talk about is the economic aspect. So this region is important and it shall remain important in the near future as well, because a lot of focus has been on this region on account of the Indo-Pacific focus of USA and the controversies surrounding China. Okay. So if we talk about economic aspect, as per reports, in 2019-20, the trade was of US dollars 86.9 billion between India and ASEAN. In fact, this is one of the regions which has invested a lot in India. If we talk about last 20 years only, the investments exceed 70 billion in India. So a lot of investment has come from this region. Specifically, if we talk about Singapore, it has invested a lot. One of the largest foreign direct investment in India has come from Singapore. and there is a lot of trade activities, imports and exports. India exports a lot of things to Asian countries, though we had some problem areas as well, because both are agriculture countries, and often we see that we have some issues. So if we talk about Indian exports to this region, we are providing them petroleum products, chemicals. In fact, these two items, you'll see that we import as well. Some of the countries we sell, some of the countries we are receiving this thing. Okay, chemicals, basically the organic chemicals are more important when it comes to export. We also sell iron and steel. Ships, boats, and other related fishing industry structures. Of course, we sell them marine products. So India is exporting a lot of things to this region. The items of import are also important. So whenever you are writing in answers, you need to talk about Indian imports as well. So like I said, some things, vegetable oil is one of the most important things that India imports from this region. We also import a lot of telecommunication instrument. Telecommunication instruments. And of course, like I said, chemicals and petroleum products. These are major items. There are many more things that are happening, right, between these two countries. Now we have trade in services as well, investment as well. So many things are happening between these two countries. Okay, so the trade relationship between these two countries is good, and the growth is improving with each year. And we'll look at some of the problem areas in contemporary issues, like RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, has become a problem area, but we'll be talking about these in contemporary issues. So now we are covering some of the regular things between these two countries. Okay, so note it down fast. So we'll look at some other aspect. And this is something that as a whole India is engaged. But India gives more importance to this region, and some of the countries are more important. Okay, some of the countries are more important. So we have also collaborated in the sub-regional level. So we have sub-regional collaborations with few of the countries, and the most famous of these is Mekong Ganga Cooperation. Mekong River is an important river. So two important rivers of the countries. This was in the year 2000. Okay. So India and 5 countries from Southeast Asian region, that those belong to ASEAN group, were engaged in sub-regional grouping that had decided to cooperate in 4 areas. So if we talk about the names of the countries who were engaged, they were Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam. Along with India, and they decided to collaborate in 4 different sectors. Okay. These 5 countries and India were engaged in tourism, cultural collaboration, educational collaboration. These were the sectors, along with transportation. Okay. So in exams also you can use such approach, showing things in flow charts. It will save time and make things clear that these 6 countries are involved in these 4 areas. Okay. So there are 6 members in total, 5 of these 6 engaged in 4 things. So sub-regional cooperation is also happening. And India has also provided some of relief work in these countries as well. Okay. India has invested in all these mentioned fields, plus some of the relief works whenever is required. India is always involved in some of the quick impact projects. Involved in more than 60 quick impact projects. Means these are the projects which are targeting some quick results, right? Though we are going to engage in these 4 sectors, but some of the target areas like sanitation programs are being financed by India, like some children's education, some of the things which can bring quick results. Overall education of the masses, of course, is a target of these grouping, but India is helping with this as well. Elementary education to all, sanitation work, some of the work for women empowerment, etc. So actively engaged with these countries. So sub-regional grouping is also important. Note it down. India is also engaging with these countries in the field of space and training in technology. Okay? India is looking forward to these countries to develop their IT sector, engaging with some of the countries. So, other sector is space. So, of course, these countries are not having expertise to do much with respect to these. So what India is doing? India is establishing some tracking and data processing stations in countries like Vietnam so that their local population can also learn from that and can actively engage in some of the jobs that are available to them via India. So establishment of tracking and data processing stations in Vietnam. And upgradation work of telemetry tracking. And in fact, many of the students who are studying here are encouraged to work in the field. So these are some of the examples that you can mention. Now, if we talk about some other aspect of like connectivity, we have read this thing, right? Connectivity. While dealing with India, Myanmar, we had talked about some of the projects. We had spoken about Kaladan. Kaladan project. You have the other project, India, Myanmar, Thailand highway. ASEAN is going to stay important for next decade or maybe more. So this topic, whatever we are discussing, is going to be really important for you. So this is a project that is being developed to connect India, Myanmar and Thailand, we had seen. We talk about the connectivity. It starts from Manipur. There is a place More in Manipur. Moreh. This is in Manipur. And almost across the border, very nearby. Okay, there is a place Tamu. That is, More is in Manipur, Tamu is in Myanmar. Okay, so these are connected. Many a times diagrams in books will show them together, these two places. Okay, so many a times you'll get confused that which place is where. So this will get connected to Mandale. Further, it will get connected to these three places. Tamu, Mandale, Naipito, it will further get connected to Rangoon or Yangon. But many a times you'll see that the new name is being used nearby, Bago. Some of the books will write Bago as the place. And like we had seen, it will get connected to Mysot in Thailand. These places up to Yangon are in Myanmar. Okay. Initially, the project was like this only, but more recently, it has been extended to Bangkok. So this is important. The highway is being developed. Remember that More and Tamu are two different places. One is in India and the other one is in Myanmar. So these connectivity projects are also important. It will facilitate the trade. And of course, when Udan project was started, India had called it as Nai Udan, and we started with flights from Guwahati to these regions. So of course, we are looking forward to connectivity with this area. And finally, as per the plans, now the plans are to connect this highway with some other regions as well. Okay. So the plans are to extend the highway to Laos, Cambodia and Vietnam. But these are not finalized. So basically what these are in planning phase only. Okay. There is no actual execution. Manipur, More, M-O-R-E-H. Saritha, you had to type a lot of time. I didn't see It's Tamu, Tamu in Myanmar, Mandale, Naipaito, Yangon or Rangoon or Bago, the present name. Okay, nearby place. And in the planning phase, we have Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam as well. Okay. This is More, Moreh in Manipur, then Tamu, Tamu. Moreh. Okay, so these are some of the connectivity projects. We are also having some other fields of cooperation in agriculture, energy. We have signed some of the agreements. We also have facilitated some of the ministerial meetings. So I hope everybody has drawn this thing. Energy already we have seen previously that petroleum products are imported and exported. This point we had already seen. Okay. And we are also cooperating in renewable energy segment. Okay, and there was New Delhi Declaration on ASEAN-India Cooperation in Renewable Energy. So for this, New Delhi So there is a declaration. So of course, this point is going to stay in news. Okay, so you need to follow this thing. These two areas both are very much dependent on agriculture. So there is emphasis on this segment as well. Agriculture is a special point for both these countries. And agriculture ministers meet is held annually since 2011. Okay, so we have ASEAN India Agriculture Ministers meeting. Of course, with many of the countries, this thing is not happening. You must have rarely heard that agriculture minister of the country is going to visit some of the meets. But when it comes to ASEAN, of course, we are doing this thing. A formal meeting is held since 2011. And we are also exchanging information and technology related to agriculture. Both ASEAN and India are engaged in this thing as well. So a lot of things are happening. So these are all the aspects that we needed to discuss. Now we'll focus on some of the contemporary issues which has become really important in this region, and that too on account of the connotation Indo-Pacific, right? The Indo-Pacific region, the South China Sea, and regional comprehensive economic partnership that India was part of since its inception. But in 2019, when India was not convinced that this relationship can be of any value to India, we chose to part away from that regional grouping, which had included all the Asian countries, with Japan, China, India, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. But at this point in time, there are only 15 countries engaged in that project. Now India is not part of this. We chose not to participate. Okay? So we'll be looking at these aspects. I hope everybody has noted this point as well. So we'll start with South China Sea dispute. This is more relevant at this point in time. RCEP, of course, will discuss that. But as India has left that and we have to see what unfolds, we'll be discussing that thing a little later. First, we'll be focusing on this thing. South China Sea dispute. We have, this is India. Okay. Now, there are many countries which are in trouble because of this dispute. Okay, South China Sea dispute. The problem is that of territorial waters. Each and every country has some kind of claims over this region. Okay? All these countries have claims over the very area, South China Sea, because the boundaries of many countries are here. Okay? China calls its claim as 9-dash line. China claims whole of the area as 9-dash line. Okay? 9-dash line is what? Chinese claim. But some of the countries, of course, it is their territorial water as well. So they say that we also have claim over this. This is the area claimed by Brunei. Malaysia too have territorial claims, a bit of only. They do not claim much of the area, right? But they are not happy about this 9-dash line. Okay? The Vietnam is also very close. So of course it has also some claim. Philippines is also inclined to claim. So basically, and this is your South China Sea. Okay? So a lot of claims. And in some of these areas only, we have some of the disputed islands. Okay? So this is Parcel Islands. That is disputed. This is Scarborough Shoal. Okay? You must have read this shoal and banks in your geography. Scarborough Shoal. A shoal is what? In self area, when there is some development, protruding development, that is very nearby the surface of water. Okay? It is like top of a hill, small hill, right? So we call these as shoal. And if it is flat topped, we call it as banks, right? So basically, I hope everybody is aware what shoal is. Okay? It is a geographical term only. Soil is something like you must have in oceanography, you must have seen this. This is self area. Okay. So here we have banks and this is soil. So basically these are very nearby. This is your water level. So when sand deposits here, it looks like an island. And this is the thing, Scarborough Shoal or Scarborough Island, which is being claimed by China. And where Philippines thinks that it also has claims over this. And Spratly Island, Brunei also feels that this should come under its influence. Okay. So too many claims of this region. Philippines wants this, China wants this, and of course Brunei wants it. So everybody is claiming. China has 9 dash line and they talk about their territorial waters. So this area is under conflict. Okay. So draw the diagram. This is different thing. Okay, bank and soils in the Gulf region. So a lot of dispute is happening, and as it is international water, so it doesn't belong to any of the countries. No country can have claim over this region. None of the countries can claim this region because this is international waters. So India is supporting some of these countries indirectly. And India says that this is South China Sea is part of global commons. I hope everybody has drawn this thing. Done? Okay. So India feels that everybody has having freedom of navigation in this place. And hence, free navigation and overflights is for all. Okay. Basically, what India is indicating, this is international waters. Everyone is clear with this? This is India's claims. So these places are important and it will stay in news because every now and then China doesn't fight on a single front. At one point in time, it was engaged with almost 29 countries at single point in time. Everyone clear? So we'll move forward. So South China dispute, it is going to stay. And this Permanent Court of Arbitration, Hague, has given some of the verdict. But China never heeds to it. China has nothing to Now we'll look at RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. So basically this is a partnership for the Indo-Pacific region. Okay? And what is this Indo-Pacific region? There are 15 countries in total. New Zealand. Everybody is clear with this Indo-Pacific region? What area is this Indo-Pacific? Are you aware? Or have any kind of confusion? Somebody respond. Indo-Pacific region. Or I'll show it over a map, and if everybody is clear with this, I won't draw the map. If anybody is having confusion, you can respond. This is basically an economic agreement which also includes free trade agreement. Okay. So for this, okay, Ankit, yeah, I'll leave this thing. I'll leave this thing. And the same comment is coming so many times. I guess there is some technical error or what. Somebody respond. Are you in a position to have the look of these videos, the lectures, whatever we were discussing? Is it clear to everyone? Ankit, all good? So we'll be discussing about this thing only. Maybe I'll explain. Okay, actually the same comment was coming to me. There is some technical error with the comment section, I guess. Okay, so it is an economic agreement which also includes free trade agreement. So I'll give a brief now and we'll complete this topic tomorrow, because as Ankit has mentioned that you are having lecture from 2. So a brief discussion for 5 minutes. Initially in 2012, India enthusiastically joined this group. And India wanted to carry on with this grouping. We were more concerned with neutralizing the economic might of the West. Okay, there was a perception that if countries like India, China, Australia, and some of the Asian countries are coming together, then we'll have almost more than half of the population of the world. And of course, these countries can ensure that we are recognized as an economic might. But when we started with the negotiations, India was at disadvantage. There were already agreements signed between some of the countries with which these Asian countries, or maybe China or Japan, in some instances Korea, wanted to preserve those treaties, and there was no uniformity. So India said that there is no meaning of such grouping then. And almost all these countries were fearful of Chinese goods. India, of course, knew that the moment that it declares a free trade agreement, our market will be flooded with Indian goods. The agriculture sector of India is vulnerable. These Asian countries will start sending their oil at very cheap rates, and our oil industry will be hit. New Zealand, its dairy industry is highly mechanized. So they'll start sending dairy products at cheap rates in India, and our dairy market will collapse. And China, of course, could do more harm than good with its economic policies, with the advantage of the free trade agreement. So of course, India denied this grouping in 2019, and we left this grouping. But still, we have to see how India will be engaging with these groups, because rest of the countries have moved forward. with this regional grouping. And there are threats that India will be losing in some of the sectors. So we have to see about it. So the write-up part, of course, we'll be seeing tomorrow. And I hope you understood these events, and you have to follow the South China Sea event and RCEP as well, because ASEAN is involved, and we are focusing on ASEAN. And Indo-Pacific region remains important, and our access to those areas becomes easy with ASEAN. Okay, so as you are having classes at 2, I'll leave this lecture here only, and we'll try to complete the things tomorrow. I hope everybody understood the things. Take some rest, have your meal, and start with the lecture again. So I'm leaving a little earlier so that you can focus on the next lecture as well. You need at least a little break before that. So if any queries related to this, feel free to ask tomorrow. Okay? Then have your lunch, have a great time, stay healthy. The class is over.